We appreciate you joining us today here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. 419-794-3030, online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Guys, the cost of long-term care can be $10,000 a month or more. No wonder so many say that it's one of the huge gotcha expenses when it comes to retirement. And now, a dozen states are actually considering implementing a tax on people who don't carry long-term care insurance. So, got to ask, is it smart to buy a policy now to avoid paying possible taxes later? How do you help clients prepare for long-term care costs?
Yeah, when we were doing today's show and I was kind of researching that, that's, shocking news that I think most people are not aware of because it really hasn't impacted us here in Ohio. But, Washington residents were recently given a short period of time to have qualified long-term care insurance policies in place to avoid the payroll tax of 0.058% of all earned income. However, the governor signed into law back January 27th, 2022. It's now delayed until implementation until July 1st of 2023. But the states will not give residents more time to obtain coverage to avoid the tax. So again, one more tax. And, a big part of the reason why they're doing this is if you look at the government, they're broke, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They're broke, and whether it's Medicare or in this case Medicaid, the states are really kind of running out of money, and that's one more thing that they're going to do is start to tax people. There's many other states that are actually looking at including a tax similar to this. You've got California, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Alaska, Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, Missouri, North Carolina, Oregon, and Utah have also started to follow that lead. So long-term care, I think, is something important to take a look at. Mm-hmm. And, again, both of us with decades of years of experience in the industry, what we've seen is the long-term care kind of shift a little bit. If you look at it back in the younger days when I was in the business, 10, 15, 20 years ago, what it would be common is a married couple would go out and buy what's called a traditional long-term care insurance policy. You would select benefits for things like in a nursing home, at home, adult daycare, how long you want those benefits to last, and you would have a premium. But what we've seen now happen over the years is because the healthcare costs have exploded, many of those traditional policies have had rate increase after rate increase after rate increase, making it very unaffordable for the average retired couple to afford traditional long-term care insurance. Now, in addition to that, what you've had happen is most of the carriers have gotten out of the business of traditional long-term care insurance. So, here the government's going to tax somebody in a situation where they don't have maybe a lot of traditional choices, and it's another grab at people's money.
And not only that, but it's a qualified long-term care policy. Well, who's going to set the guidelines for a qualified? Well, obviously, we know who that is. It's the government, right? It's a shame. I wonder what the numbers are, Nolan, on the number of people that purchased a long-term care policy, say, 20 years ago. How many of them still have it today? Because like you said, the increase in premiums for that have skyrocketed, and a lot of companies have completely done away with it, like you mentioned. They've gone to this hybrid plan, which we both agree, and we were actually just talking about this last week when we were in Pittsburgh, when, we both agree that the hybrid plans are a really good option. It gives you that long-term care coverage. It also gives you coverage for some life insurance benefits where if you pass away before you exhaust your long-term care benefits, then your beneficiary will actually get some of the proceeds. The traditional plans never really had that before. But I wonder what that number is. Does that make sense?
It does. So I had recently met with a couple. They're in their early 90s, very healthy people. They purchased long-term care insurance years ago before they even had an opportunity to meet our firm. But they had called in because they had got a letter from their insurance carrier that their premiums over the next couple of years are going up by another 80%.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Right.
We're in our 90s. Although we're healthy now, we realize things can change in a hurry. And, do we pay these high costs or, do we select some other option, which was to lower the length of time they could get benefits? They could lower their inflation rider. They could, lower their different options. So, for those of you that have traditional long-term care insurance now, I'd say great job. if you get one of those letters and you're not sure what to do about your coverage, please reach out to your agent, or if you want a second opinion, we're more than happy to have a conversation with it. But, Scott, I think you're really onto something. I think that the government is missing somewhat of the boat on. Our focus, I think, needs to be how to keep somebody out of a nursing home.
Absolutely.
That needs to be the focus. I have yet, after all of these years, found anybody who says, hey, I want to go into a nursing home.
Right.
Now, going back to stats, again, being a numbers guy, I guess it is an 8-to-1 female to male ratio is what I've heard. So, I guess if a guy wants to go there, maybe that's the case.
The odds are in his favor.
Most guys I talk to, they'll say, Nolan, I'm going to have somebody take me behind the woodshed, right?
Yes,
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Which just sounds like a traditional male attitude, but it all sounds good until something bad happens.
Right.
Especially when you're dealing with diminished mental capacity, somebody having dementia or Alzheimer's, and some of the strain that can have on a family and how long that can last. So again, what I would say is the best takeaway here is you can't dwell too much about what the government's going to do with taxes, right? We can vote, and you should vote, and vote people out that are not spending money the way that you want them to do. But then roll that back into say, what can I do to control my own situation? My best advice here is to develop a plan that says if you or a loved one need long-term medical care, what is our solution to minimize the financial impact and help us maintain control and independence so we don't end up in a facility? Because, again, if I think about a traditional relationship, my wife, was a Christian family. She does a fantastic job taking care of the kids, running them to dentists and sporting events and, keeping the household all put together. And then, if I get hurt or sick, she's my primary caregiver.
Right.
Well, as we know, the numbers say men typically pass away first.
Mm-hmm.
So if I pass away, the question becomes, who's going to be there to take care of my wife?
Exactly.
And I think why that stat is so high of females to males needing care is, females, just like everybody, they tend to slow down and then there's nobody there to take care of them. So the solution that you talked about of protecting your assets without buying traditional long-term care insurance, if you're a listener and you don't know about that solution, that's a great approach to take a look at it. It's like moving money from your left pocket to your right pocket. So as Scott pointed out, it can still have a cash value associated with it in case you need the money. It could be passed on to your beneficiaries in the form of life insurance, which if set up correctly could be tax-free, probate-free cash for replacement income for the spouse, or it can provide, some of those benefits if you get hurt or sick or terminally ill and need some coverage along the way. So, really good choice, I'd say.
Yeah, one of the things that you want to make sure, if you, I was reading that article preparing for the show as well, and it says that the state supplied benefit is $36,500. Well, the number is anywhere from 1 to 3 years. If you're 3 years in a skilled nursing home, that's $1,000 a month.
Well, it's actually a skilled nursing home is $10,000 a month.
Well, I know, but if the average cost is $36,500, well, that's Medicaid paying that. What kind of facility do you think you're going to go in if Medicaid is paying that number? So like you said, Nolan, I think that everybody should at least look at this, and if it fits your budget, you should do something. Like we've said before, doing nothing is not a plan. But you should do something. But they're going to take every penny you have, spend that down, and then you're going to be on a Medicaid program, and you're not going to have any say, nor will your family have any say in what kind of facility or care that you're going to get. We want to help you make sure that you don't have to go through that and put a plan in place now so you don't have to worry about that in the future.
Being able to explore the different options that you have available to you, because the numbers that I've seen recently, guys, they say if you're retiring, you're in retirement age, there's about a 75% chance that at least one of you or your spouse, are going to need some form of long-term, medical assistance. And we certainly hope, you don't have to, but the odds are right there. Like I said, 75% chance. So taking this seriously and figuring out what is going to work best for you, and there's a lot of different options out there to explore what those are. Give a call to the team at America's Retirement Headquarters, 419-794-3030, or you can go online to americasretirementheadquarters.com. Let's talk about Social Security really quick. The earliest that you can claim is 62, but the benefit that you'd receive is much lower than if you waited until age 67 or 70. So really it comes down to math, trying to figure out that break-even point. For example, the average American man lives to be 78. So with that in mind, knowing, that that's the average age, can you run through some scenarios to illustrate when people should take Social Security? And do you guys help calculate that break-even point?
Well, a lot of times I ask people about when are they going to draw Social Security, and it's oftentimes I hear the answer right when I retire. If you look at the statistics, if you go to the Social Security government website, roughly about 70% of people elect to draw benefits before their full retirement age. So again, in this example, you can take benefits as early as 62. But if you take benefits early, what happens is you face a lifetime penalty. And when you look at it and you run the numbers for an average married couple, Social Security can be the cornerstone of a retiree's retirement income. It still is true to this day. So, I'm curious, and I ask people, I say, well, why would you accept a lifetime penalty when you have income for life guaranteed by the full faith and pledge of the United States government, backed with an inflation-adjusted benefit that provides a spousal and survivor benefit? And that is sometimes often what I hear.
Right.
Well, I've run the numbers and I wanted to look at what it took for me to break even. Or, I've heard that Social Security is going to run out of money, so I better get it while I can.
Sure.
If we look at the break-even analysis, I think that's the wrong approach. That is looking at, again, how long it's going to take before I get all my money back, and it's usually somewhere in the mid-70s. Instead of looking at it as break-even, I'm going to bet on you retiring and living a long time. So, again, look at it as, what if you don't break even? What if you're not the average person? What if you and your family live longer than the average? I'm going to bet on how to get you the most amount of lifetime income over the course of your life. And when you factor it in, there could be other situations where not drawing Social Security early could make sense. Like if you've already got money saved up in other investment vehicles, it may make sense to take money out of your IRA, your 401k, or your personal savings and not select that lifetime penalty. This, again, though, is one of those areas where it's not every answer is right for everybody. Every situation is a little bit different. So you might have somebody who's not married, maybe somebody who's single, maybe somebody who has health-related, concerns. Maybe they have issues, and maybe it makes more sense in those situations to
maybe
take
they
it.
just need the money. They can't afford not to.
True.
And I've had that situation. When I'm helping people sign up for Medicare, you do it through the Social Security website. And I asked that question just like you. I said, "Are you taking Social Security?" And it is shocking the number of people that are taking it prior to, but most of them say, "I'm going to take it when I retire." But I've had several people that just say, I need that money to survive.
Yeah, if you break down the numbers, taking Social Security at 62, let's say the paycheck's $1,180. At age 78, you have collected $226,000. So the break-even point would be age 76. So, maybe that was a good move. If you take Social Security at age 67, the check will have increased to $1,790 a month. At 78, you will have collected $236,000. So the break-even point there is age 81. So again, not a good move unless you outlive that age 81. If you take Social Security age 70, your paycheck is now all the way up to $2,300 a month. At age 78, you've collected just $226,000. So you have to live well into your 80s before making it one that's worthwhile. And, it's no wonder why so many people decide to draw benefits early, and why actually the studies show only 4% of people wait until age 70 to collect their benefit. But again, if we look at longevity, people are living longer. And, my goal is to make sure that our clients have the maximum amount of income for their lifetime. Something else I think that's interesting, before you make a decision on Social Security, you also should realize that if you go into the Social Security's office or you call them on the phone, they're not really permitted to give you strategies on what could be your best approach. Now, again, I think people that are at Social Security office, just like any other business, you probably got some great people there, and you probably have some people that aren't necessarily the best to talk with. But their job is to try to get you the most amount of money the day that you apply. That may not be your best approach. The best answer here, again, just like anything that we're talking about, is have us run a Social Security optimization report. What we can do is we can take your information, we can put it in our software, and the first question we'll ask you is we'll say, well, what were you originally thinking when you were going to draw Social Security? We can run that analysis and show you. Then what we can do is we can say, okay, based upon mathematical evidence, of course, we don't know what longevity really plays out to be, but based upon what we think it could be for your family situation, what could be the best approach? And then from there, we can do different what ifs.
Right.
What if we decided, maybe to meet somewhere in the middle? The Social Security analysis, I think, is something that every person that's close to or in retirement time should have done. I know there's some free calculators on the internet if you Google Social Security calculator, but ours is really tailored to your individual situation and taking it to more of a comprehensive approach when we're looking at everything all combined together to help you make the best decision, to not only look at the break even, but to try to look at how to get your family the most amount of lifetime income.
If we all knew how long we were going to live and that was the only factor in play here, this would be a very easy situation. It wouldn't even be a problem. I'm hesitant to call it that. But we don't know how long we're going to live, and it is not the only factor. So there's a lot of math, a lot of variables in there, and sitting down and speaking with people who know the ins and the outs that can help you with that. And as Nolan mentioned, the good people at the Social Security office, those aren't the ones you want to call. You want to speak to professionals like the team at America's Retirement Headquarters, figure out what's going to be the right strategy for you and your spouse going forward. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. That's 419-794-3030, or go online, americasretirementheadquarters.com. There's more to come here on the show, here on America's Retirement Headquarters. When we come back, we're going to hear what NFL Hall of Famer Ray Lewis said about retirement.